2014, pulled in the driveway. My wife came out to greet me and said, I'm selling our business, I'm selling our house, and I'm going to go sell real estate. And she, to her credit, my wife, Shelly, is absolutely amazing. She and I have been in business together 40 hours a week on top of marriage and everything else since 2003. But she's only comment she had was, you know what your responsibilities are, do what you got to do. And I knew that I just needed to sell something that had more zeros behind it. You know, the effort and time that I was putting into selling a $170 per month martial arts package was the same effort it took to sell a $700,000 house.
Welcome to the LandLife podcast with your host, PJ Riley.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the LandLife podcast. My name is PJ Riley. Guys, like I always say, if you're getting value from this podcast, don't forget, leave a comment, like, subscribe. I don't know, what can you do on iTunes? Leave stars, right? Leave 5 stars, but always leave a comment. Just do me a solid. Write a 2-line comment. I like the podcast. It was cool. Or I don't like it. Either way, leave a comment. Guys, at the end of the podcast, our guest today, Jason Franklin, is going to leave you ways that if what he said resonates with you, you can contact him and kind of follow up and keep that conversation going. So yeah, guys, today our guest for the LandLife podcast is Jason Franklin. Jason, you're at Houston, Texas, correct?
Yes, sir. Right. Matter of fact, looking out my window, I can see the entrance to Johnson Space Center. So right here on NASA Parkway.
Wow, that's got to be pretty nice.
It is.
Yeah, I can imagine. Franklin Realty Group. He's got his own podcast. He's got Expedition U podcast, which he's got an exciting guest coming up here at some point.
That's what I hear.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, he's a guy that sells dirt and trees. Nothing super exciting, just dirt and trees. So if you're ready for a pretty bland episode, get ready for that one. Jason, let's jump in real quick right away. Let's go back and let's give a little bit of a background on you, how you got to the point we're at now, and then we'll get started from there.
Decided I didn't want to go to college. And I remember I had a conversation with one of my friends. He said, if you don't get your life together, you're going to put gas in my Ferrari. And I explained to him, and this is probably when I was 18, and just said, listen, we're going different paths, but there will come a point when we're all in the same place. I'm just not taking the path you took. I took the path less traveled, and it was way harder than going out and getting a degree. But just the college wasn't for me anyway. So I got into low-level positions. As a matter of fact, when I was 21, I was working as a cashier at Office Depot, worked my way up, got into management, went into district management with a large team, with a large national company over on the East Coast. Moved my family all over the world for like 5 or 6 years. I thought my daughter went to 4 elementary schools in kindergarten, just in that 1 year, because I was moving. I was the axe man. When a store wasn't producing, they brought me in there, cleaned house, wrecked shop, put it back together. And as soon as it was producing, I was bored and I left and went to another store. Wow. In 2003, because of how much I had been moving my family, I had an opportunity to go into business with my father. And it's not a business that very many people think about ever wanting to do, but my family is all spent a lot of time in martial arts. So my father's a 5th degree, my mom's 1st degree, brother's 1st degree, my daughter's 3rd degree, my son's 1st degree. I mean, the whole family's black belts, and ran that business for about 12 years. And, the great thing about that business is that, one, it was a really tough business, and it was in a very, very predominantly blue collar area. So if you know anything about Houston, it's a huge, other than the medical center and NASA, the biggest employer is refineries, and it's on the outskirts of Houston. And so these really, really, immigrant-based, first-generation American blue-collar workers, and I'm over here trying to peddle like $170 a month for martial arts. Yeah. And so, anyways, the sales abilities and the skills of being able to grow that was really, really vital. And then in 2014, everybody, when they came into martial arts school, was like, man, you got the best job in the world. You work from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I was like, bro, I was here at 8 o'clock this morning doing websites, doing advertising, keeping up social media, trying to figure out how to get that next student, And so anyways, 2014, I blinked and my daughter was a senior. My other 2 were going into high school, and I wasn't at the football games. I wasn't at everything. And I ate dinner at 11 o'clock at night for 12 years. And so I was like, all right, this isn't going to work. Went on what I call a mancation, drove up to the Texas Panhandle. And I like that drive to go see family just because it gets me 11 hours of uninterrupted windshield time, and I make some pretty big life decisions during that. Came back to Houston. This is August 16th of 2014, pulled in the driveway. My wife came out to greet me. I said, I'm selling our business. I'm selling our house, and I'm going to go sell real estate. And she, to her credit, my wife, Shelly, is absolutely amazing. She and I have been in business together 40 hours a week on top of marriage and everything else since 2003. But she's only comment she had was, you know what your responsibilities are, do what you got to do. And I knew that I just needed to sell something that had more zeros behind it. The effort and time that I was putting into selling a $170 per month martial arts package was the same effort it took to sell a $700,000 house. Yeah. So came into real estate, crushed it. My first year, for a first year, I did like 6.5 million, 3x'd my income. It was great. And then, that martial artist in me, I love growing people. It's just something that I'm passionate about, probably to a fault, because I let people stick around longer than I should that aren't growing. But so this year our team will do, we're more of a boutique team, but we'll do about 50 million. So it's very, very healthy. It's not a rocket ship. I've got partners that are, in EXP that are doing 250 million, 600 million, that type of thing. And that's not really something I'm trying to get to because I've got my fingers in so many other pies. But that's basically how I got where I'm at right now. And right now what we're doing is we have the Franklin Realty Group. We started our podcast a little over a year ago. Some really good information and some high net worth individuals that are crushing it. Really great advice from those people. And then we have our new technology company that we're launching. It's REIFT.com, and it's going to really mess up real estate.
Wow. So I want to get into the EXP and the technology part here in a minute. But one thing I want to talk to you about first is a lot of people don't realize, say that you're a martial arts instructor, right? You're working hard. You're putting in the hours. You're doing all this stuff. Mm-hmm. You're just playing in the wrong sandbox if you want to be financially free, right? So, but I think a lot of guys that do that are in that martial arts world are like, well, my career, my job skills don't transfer or translate to real estate, right? Or to something like that, maybe on a higher financial plane.
Sure.
You are proof, though, that is possible. How were you able to transition from martial arts into real estate? Give us kind of a nuts and bolts thing too. Like, what did you do to transfer into that different world?
Well, so, I made that decision in the middle of August, and within 11 weeks, I had sold my business, sold my house, and had my real estate license and was sitting at a desk at 40 years old. The funny thing is I did all this at 40, and I tell everybody, that was my midlife crisis.
That's
I didn't go buy
cool, man. I love to hear that.
I didn't buy a Corvette. I wrecked my entire family. But, that thing is that transition. Here's the thing. If you've got a fire and you're burning for success, you're going to be an amazing pipe fitter. You're going to be an amazing welder. You're going to be an amazing hairstylist. The thing is, my wife gets really scared sometimes because I come back home with these new ideas. She's like, oh, damn, here we go. And I went out to some training and was really trying to get my head right because this was about 2 years ago, and was like, and I came home and I told her, I said, I only got one thing to say. She's what? I said, I'm going to add zeros to our problems to add zeros to our profits.
Wow.
I said, I'm going to be $1 million in debt in the next 18 months. And that was something that was so anti everything that we're taught. I'm struggling to get that 700 credit score, and I've got to pay off that car, and I've got to pay off this credit card or whatever. And the thing is, yeah, if you got stupid debt, it's stupid. But debt is not your enemy. Leveraging cash is probably the number one thing that any majorly successful real estate investor will ever tell you. Leveraging cash, leveraging equity is the only way to truly become wealthy in real estate. And if the sooner you learn that, the better. But, what I would say is that the major piece for me transitioning was that I came to the understanding a long time ago that when I was selling a martial arts package, they had just walked in the door. They didn't know me. They hadn't vetted me. People weren't Googling, martial arts schools in 2003, right? There was no Yelp reviews. And so what I realized very quickly is they were buying me. And 80% of the people that came in were buying me to fix their kid.
Yeah.
He's fat. He's slow. He doesn't listen. He doesn't pay attention. And so that's something that I took very seriously, but it's knowing where your strengths are. You're going to succeed no matter what you do. If you stay in your lane and just really, really figure out, okay, these are the 3 things that I'm amazing at, but amazing's not good enough. So I've still got to continue to hone those 3 things. And you can take that into real estate. The thing, like, you do dirt, right? And you do dirt and trees, and primarily, I'm sure you do other things, but here we do residential, we do flips, we do wholesales, we do technology, we do all this stuff, because the thing is that I'm never going to put all my eggs in one basket. And the only limit to the money that you can make in the real estate sector is the limit of your imagination. Yeah. There's always a way to get a deal done. If it's doing a JV, bringing in partners, finding out what widget people are looking for, and you go out and find it. They're not making any more land, well, except for in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, they are building land there, building little islands. That's super interesting. And you did it at, there's a couple things I want to talk about here then. You did it at 40, right? Mm-hmm. How many people do you know that are 40 that say things like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? How many, I'm 44 years old right now. I love the idea of learning new tricks, right? I love the idea of learning a new business opportunity, or maybe looking at pivoting over here or shifting over there or something like that. But it was you that did it. You built yourself, right? You built this guy that you had to sell yourself every day, right? And I think that's super key when you're in any business world, is you got to be able to sell yourself. If people don't like you, if they don't know you, they're not going to do business with you.
Well, and not only that, but the thing you have to understand is that you are your number one customer, right? If you have to be able to sell yourself, but you have to be sold on yourself.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
That's, if you can, the whole fake it till you make it, and that's cool for a season, but not a lifetime. Yeah. Right. The thing is at some point, whether it's that you're good at talking to people, I'm an introvert. I am an introvert. Like, dude, when I'm done working for the day, I go home and close the blinds. But I'm on all the time, because for a multitude of reasons. One, it's part of my success track, but 2, it's what people deserve from me. I tell every new agent when we're dealing with this stuff, said, that's somebody's home. Right. There's a certain respect that it's not a widget. If we're dealing with an investor, it's a 3-2-2. It'll have a 10% equity position and a 1% monthly return. Cool. That's a house. A home is first steps, grandma's last steps, Christmases, and if you go into every meeting and you stop and have a cognitive moment and go, what are they hoping to get from this meeting? And how can I provide them with that? And how can I provide it at a level that so far exceeds what they expected to get? Yeah. You're going to rock everything you do if you can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's super important, especially if you're new, or if you're 40 years old and you're like, am I too late to the game? Did I show up too late? No, you did not. Follow Jason. One thing I want to ask you, let's shift gears a little bit. You're an EXP, correct?
Correct.
I've interviewed quite a few people that are in EXP, and I have met guys at networking groups. I go to there's a networking group here in Denver. Bigger Pockets is here in Denver. So, we have local networking groups, and there's tons of guys from EXP. What's the draw? Why EXP?
What's the deal?
What's the deal? What's going on?
So when I got into real estate, I went to RE/MAX, and I went to RE/MAX for a very specific reason, because everybody told me don't go to RE/MAX. They said RE/MAX is a fly or die. It's only for sharks. You got to really have a book of business. And I was like, those are the dudes I want to be around. Yeah. Right. Why would I avoid that? They're like, no, go to Keller Williams. It's got a great training program. I was like, bro, I got enough money to feed my family for 6 months. I'm done with training. I need to go sell some crap. And then anyways, I was there, and then I went to Coldwell because they had this, quite frankly, they wrote me a check and asked me to come work there. So I went, and stayed there my 3 years that I had to. The thing I really like, there are wolves and there are sheep, right? And this is not a very politely or well thought of statement. but I don't believe that there's anything other than wolves and sheep. Somebody told me one time, they go, well, yeah, what about the shepherd? And I was like, shepherd's still a wolf. He's still leading the pack,
Yeah.
but EXP, to me, I wanted a brokerage that's going to say, hey, go sell everything that's not nailed down. Don't break the law. Call me if you need me.
Yeah.
And that was what EXP was, right? I mean, matter of fact, when I sat down with Jimmy Franklin, no relation, for our first meeting, because they're at EXP and they're a huge team. Like I was talking about a second ago, they've got 19 or 20 agents, something like that. Did 600 million plus in sales last year. They just crush it. And I sat down with them. I said, hey, here's the thing. I'm going to come to EXP, or at least we're thinking strongly about it, but I'm not going to recruit people. I'm not a recruiter. That's not what I'm coming here for. I'm not here to build my pyramid, my plan, my whatever. And he's like, okay, but then my wife sat down and did the math, and just based on the fees and based on everything else, she goes, Jason, if you had done the exact same business last year at EXP rather than at this other brokerage, you would have made an extra $40,000.
Wow.
And so, I mean, everybody's got their splits and everything else. I mean, dude, I made $80,000 on accident last year in EXP stock.
It's not bad. It's a good accident.
It's a great accident. I mean, the stock was at $7. It went up to 170 and split. Now it's getting crushed right now, along with everything else in the market. But I mean, it's still, they give me, if I do 16,000, if I pay in 16,000 for my split in the course of a year, and then I do a certain number of transactions, which I always do because I run a team, they give me back that stock at the end of the year. They give me back my 16 grand I paid them in stock.
Wow.
So how is that ever not a good win?
Yeah.
But the other thing, the biggest thing now in hindsight is the collaboration at EXP is something that I've never seen at another brokerage. I mean, I've got all these I can call people East Coast, West Coast, and it's not just a referral based system. It's like, hey, I'm really having trouble with getting this to work. Or how are you getting in with new construction builders? And it's just such an open platform of collaboration that's really, really phenomenal. That's why I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, that's really nice. And your wolf sheep analogy, you only live once, man. You only live one time. Why hang out with? You can't hang out with sheep. You're never going to get anywhere if you consistently hang out with sheep all the time.
No,
I mean,
absolutely.
sometimes people think it's nice, but it's not effective. So,
well, yeah, I mean, that's the whole, being the biggest fish in the room. Big fish, small pond. Great, it's cool for your ego, but you're not growing.
Yeah.
Right. In fact, you're probably regressing.
Yeah. Absolutely. So you have a tech company then as well. You're kind of rolling into the tech space. Is that right? What are we talking about there? I mean, are you buying Bitcoin? Are you building a metaverse? I mean, what are you doing?
So, do you know who Grant Cardone is?
Oh yeah.
So Grant Cardone is a 1/3 partner in my tech launch.
Okay.
And basically what this is designed. So I'll tell you a story that created this. Essentially, we lived in this neighborhood a couple of years ago, my wife and I, and it was a neighborhood I always wanted to live in when I was a kid because all the rich kids live there. So like my 12-year-old self was like, I'm going to have a house there one day. So I went and bought one. And then we ended up, I got forced into flipping a house in this neighborhood because an old high school buddy of mine called and he's like, we don't want anybody else to do it. We want you to do it. And I was like, I really don't do that, but that's fine. Whatever. And the numbers were so spot on that even if I completely effed up, I couldn't lose money. I mean, I couldn't mess up that bad. Anyway, so we ended up selling this house for like $360,000. It's 1,000 square feet smaller than my house, 2 less bedrooms, not as well updated, And so my wife and I had just bought our house a couple years before for like $270. And I'm like, babe, pretty sure we could sell our house for over $400 now. And she goes, I don't want to sell my house. I said, well, neither do I. But if somebody comes and knocks on the door with 400 grand, you better get a suitcase. And I started thinking, I'm like, how many people don't sell their homes or don't buy their homes because the process is too expensive? Yeah. Agents cost too much. They don't want a bunch of worker nosy neighbors coming through their open house. This is in COVID period, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, our society fast forwarded 20 years on the secular nature of growth during COVID. I mean, with Zoom and at home work, I mean, we hit the fast forward button big time. Yeah. And that secular nature of who we are and what we're becoming. And I started thinking, I'm like, why isn't there a platform out there that literally just puts consumers together at a reduced rate? And basically, the thought that I had in my head, and I looked at my wife, and I was like, I want to go build Tinder for real estate.
Okay.
So RIFT.com stands for real estate shift. My wife's, it's REIFT.com. My wife actually says that it stands for real estate in future times, but that's hers. So essentially what it is you as a property owner can literally go on here. If you've already got your pictures done, you can go on our platform and list your home for sale in under 3 minutes. It's got the disclosures on there. Yes, I have this. No, I don't have that. It's got the full disclosures of what you need. Buyers then go on and do what we call a shout out. And they, hey, I'm looking for a house in this zip code. And they go through the homes that they like. It's just like an MLS in that regard. But then they have to put in what's called a request to offer. So it's kind of like when you're trying to make a connection on a dating site. So the seller gets a notification. You have these 7 requests from buyers. Okay, this guy's got a $400,000 budget. Too low. I'm not going to talk to him. This guy's pre-approved. This guy's cash. So you pick the 2, 3, 5 people that you want to talk to. But this is all done through the platform. There's complete privacy. The top 3 complaints people have about real estate agents in the US is that they're not communicative.
Yeah.
They didn't know enough about real estate, and they cost too much. And so what this is doing is it's bringing consumers together. They negotiate all of their terms. Once they have a verbally accepted offer, it's referred out to one of our partner brokerages, and they literally perform as a transaction coordinator. And this is all done for 2%.
Wow. No kidding. Are you swiping left and swiping right?
I wish, but no.
Oh, man, that'd be great.
Well, so right now it's online. Our app was forthcoming in a few months. On the app, you probably will, but I mean, the thing is you go through and it just has all your offers listed, and you go through and accept or decline, and then the buyer can actually come in. And the information you're offering when you do a request to offer is literally just what type of financing or cash do you have? How much are you willing to spend? And when do you want to close? Right. So this is all very, very fast. And then if the buyers or the seller approves your request to offer, then you go in and say, this is the name of my bank. This is how much I'm going to put down. And you put together the normal information that we would need as agents to write an offer.
Okay.
And so then at that point, that's when they take that information, seller accepts it. Everything goes out to the listing agent or the agent of record on RIFT. And so the great thing about this is that they have complete transparency, both sides.
Yeah.
They're getting drastically reduced fees, which are fully negotiable. So if the seller's got 5 offers, he can say, yeah, I'll take your offer, but I want you to pay the 2%, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's no lack of knowledge because we're not getting rid of agents. Agents have a huge value in that there is a segment of the population that needs one-on-one me time. They need that hand holding, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's a huge segment of the population. More than 40% of all buyers right now are under the age of 40. Yeah. Right. So like that's where this is going. They have never lived in a time where you didn't date online.
Yeah.
I remember
Isn't that weird.
I remember the first time I saw the internet.
Yeah.
Right?
Me too.
All these buyers coming in going, why is this buying real estate so hard? Why are we not doing this? And the funny thing is, when I came up with this idea, I was like, bro, somebody's done this. Somebody has to have done this. And I looked for a really long time, and I found it in 2 places. And it's going to kill you when I tell you where it is. In Denmark. And then they had my exact idea almost down to the letter in Singapore.
No kidding.
The United States has the most prolific real estate market in the world, arguably. And we're doing real estate in a 1950s capacity. The only thing that's changed is that the MLS went from a book to the internet. Right? I mean, and it's nothing wrong with the MLS. The MLS is fantastic. I just think it's out of date.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting too, because I've talked to a few people that have done other, they've put a certain industry that was typically face-to-face and they've put it online, kind of like what you're doing. And if you look at, your new home buyer these days, immediately they go online. They don't call their local realtor, right?
80% of all buyers have chosen the house that they ultimately purchased and handed it to their agent.
He didn't have to do anything, right?
No.
Yeah.
They had
And
to
if you
write
could
paperwork.
connect with a seller in your area, you're already looking in that specific area.
Mhm.
You just connect with that person, and then you bring the realtor in
Yep.
once the handshake deal pretty much has been agreed
Right.
upon. You
Mhm.
know, the realtor does all the background work and the technical side of everything. You got your new house, and it's done a lot faster, and you don't even have to leave your house.
Correct.
You don't have
Yeah.
to leave your house at
And
all.
you don't have a bunch of people coming through your house because they're not going to walk your property
Yeah.
until you have an agreed upon offer. Now, that's going to happen before you go into contract, but it's like, hey, Mike, you finally get to meet Jim. Hey, Jim, you guys have an agreed upon offer. The agent says, okay, we'll be out there tomorrow at 3. You let one person in,
Yeah.
right? And if
Yeah.
it's what you said it was and you're representing it properly, I mean, that's so much better on lifestyle. It's better on safety. It's
Oh
better
yeah.
on transparency and everything. So, the funny thing is when I first started kind of spitting the ball on this idea, people were like, that industry's too big. I mean, that's like you're trying to kill, Zeus, the god of lightning, and that you're just whatever. And I said, this has already been done. They did it with electronic trading in the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, think of the different platforms that people e-trade. The democratization of people being able to buy and sell stocks was absolutely huge if you compare today's numbers to pre-electronic trading. And these
Yeah.
brokers were getting paid crazy big money because only they had access and had the little dude with the ticket down on the stock floor
Yeah.
trying to, sell his wares. And they literally just put it online. They take a fraction of the cost and they go, hey, dude with Chevron, meet buyer that wants Chevron. There you go. And then they take their 10th or they take their whatever fee.
Yeah.
And it opens up the ability in the platform to so many more people. And the other thing is that RIFT is not only for regular residential, but it has an investment and wholesaling platform. Do they do wholesaling in Denver?
Wholesaling? Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So wholesalers don't like it when I say this, and I do some wholesaling, but wholesaling, historically speaking, is disproportionately hard on lower income, lower education people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in lower income areas. It's in people that don't know which way to get out, and you go in and you give them some crazy low ball offer. Now I don't do that, and I can't do it because I'm a licensed agent. I'll lose my license. So we have to go in and show them, hey, well, this is what it's worth, and this is what we're going to pay, and this is why, and everything else. But making the ability through this platform that when you are in a bad spot, you need to get rid of that house faster, you need to get an offer, you can go straight into our platform. You don't have to go to the MLS. You don't have to pay a bunch of 6% fees. And that wholesaler is no longer in the transaction because the investor is always going to pay what they're going to pay.
Yeah.
It's going to the seller rather than the middleman.
Yeah.
So just a lot of opportunity, something we're really, really excited about. And our first major foray into that is going to actually be with new construction. And right now is an amazing time for us to get new construction on. They want the visibility. They need the lower fees because things are slowing down. Market shift is real. It's something, I'm not a denier.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. So real quick with new construction,
Mhm.
so I'm the buyer. I'm looking at this house that I want to buy. Who is on the other side? Is the builder?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. So in that case, it can be the builders too. This doesn't just have to be one, me, the guy living at 123 Main Street, trying to sell it to the new couple moving in town. Right.
Correct.
It can be builders. It can be, so business owners. I own a commercial building. Can
Yeah.
I get on there and do that too?
Eventually, yes. I didn't do that yet because we're going in with a trident, the three-pronged approach, which is going to be residential, investments, and new construction. New construction being the first big one because, as you know, in business, I can do a one-to-one appointment or I can do a one-to-many. And going out to investors and saying, every single time I meet a new investor, I would like for you to list your stuff on RIFT. Whereas I can go to a builder and say, hey, I would love to have all 200 of your listings. I mean, that's the way to get us launched faster. And I really don't want to own this company for more than about 4 years, 5 at the most.
Yeah, that's super
So
smart. So I got a question. Okay, I buy and sell land. Can a land person do that?
yes, that's all forthcoming. It's just not there yet.
All
So
coming in.
it is. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So all that's coming up, dude. You're gonna make a lot of people that I know that sell and develop land very, very, very happy here soon. So that's
Well, I
super
hope
cool.
to sell it and make myself very, very, very happy.
Yeah,
So
I'm assuming that was the whole idea to begin with.
well,
Was
the
to get
launch is going
yourself.
to be interesting. So we're going with an 18-month proof of concept in the greater Houston area. And once I get proof of concept in Houston, it's the fourth largest city in the nation,
Yeah.
and has a huge housing market. Once I've done that, the training wheels are going to come off. We're going to Austin, Dallas, San Antonio, Miami, Orlando, San Francisco. I mean, the thing is, the great scalable model for us is that, one, we're not a brokerage. It's a technology company.
Yeah.
So that changes a lot of the rules there. But two is the scalability. All we need to go into a new market is the marketing, obviously, but a cooperating brokerage to work as our transaction coordinator or listing agents.
Yeah.
So I can drop into any market we want to with expediency because of the fact that there's no scaling costs. There's obviously increased marketing budget, but it doesn't cost us anything. We don't have to have brick and mortar. We're not reproducing anything, and the platform just continues to grow.
Okay. So if you told me as a real estate investor that this platform exists, I'd be psyched, right? I'm happy, I'm excited. Boom, I'm in. Let's do it. How are you marketing that though to other people? How are you marketing that out to the world right now in Houston?
So that's a really good question, and it's one that I struggled with for a long time, and that's why we're taking it off a bite at a time. So our initial launch, so the whole platform's ready to go, but our initial launch is focusing because I've got a large number of investors, wholesalers, flippers that I network with, and then one of my strategic partners works with a lot of new construction. And so we're doing introductions through that. And so that's going to be the main piece. I was in a meeting yesterday and I told him, I said, I want to, within the next 12 to 18 months, REIFT needs to go, oh, that's where you go buy new construction. Because once I show proof of concept to 5 or 6 builders and I go out to more builders and go, we're already doing this, right? I have never met a developer that loved agents. They all think that we're dumb and uneducated and trying to screw them out of money. And oh, by the way, you're way too expensive. So, and the number one question I got when we started all of this, they said, Jason, I think it's a great idea, but you're an agent. Why would you do that? So I think that this shift is coming.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised it's not already here. And there's nothing wrong. I love the National Association of Realtors. I love, all the association boards, and they've done a lot. But I think that the machine has gotten so big that it's like, we're going to leave it alone. Don't mess with it. But there's been a ton of class action lawsuits. There was like 5 class action lawsuits in the last couple of years. One from the federal Justice Department against realtors because what they're saying is simulated price fixing on 6% fees. And that it needs to be democratized, and that you need to show about what both buyers agents and listing agents are making, so that one's not making more than another. And I mean, there's just so much language there. I'm like, this is coming. And so I can either go down with the ship or I can set it on fire and get in a dinghy.
Yeah. Yeah. If you were going to make this, somebody else was.
Yes.
So this was going to happen whether you did it or not. So it's not like there's no, I don't know, moral issue here. It was going to happen whether you did it or not. And I think it only helps realtors. I mean, if you're getting fed an already made deal, that's a no-brainer, right? I don't have to do anything. It's already there. I just have to go do my, a little bit of paperwork and we're all done.
And you have happier clients. One, you saved them money. Two, they know it was their decision because they found it. They were like, I want this house.
Yeah.
So there's going to be bumps in the road, and there's things we'll have to figure out. But I mean, the reality is this is coming, and it's coming very, very soon. And we're super excited about it.
Yeah, this is really cool. And I am also very excited. And I may not even release this podcast because I don't want other people to know about it just yet. I would have no problems developing an area and then being able to connect with buyers right away and not have to, put it online and put it on Zillow and Land Watch and all these other places that you have to list your develop your properties. And I would much rather just be like, just put it on the one site or the one app even.
Yep.
My customer hopefully swipes left. I think that's good, right? Isn't left good?
I think so, yeah.
Dude, I never made.
I don't remember.
I never made the dating world, man. I'm 44 years old. I've been married for 20, almost 23 years. So, dude, I never
I'm the same thing, dude. I met my wife in March of 95. Hold on a second. Yeah, 95. Married her in June of 95.
Nice.
We went on 3 dates, got engaged, got married 3 months later. And then by 21, I was having kids.
Yep. Same. Exact same, man. So we don't understand this dating apps. You're my only access to swiping left or swiping right. I'm hoping. Fingers crossed.
I can deliver that.
Fingers crossed. I'm pretty excited about that. All right, real quick, I want to talk about your podcast, Expedition U. Why'd you make a podcast? Like, you have all these things going. You have so many irons in the fire. How do you even have time to make a podcast?
The reality is the reason I started a podcast is because the majority of my agents on my team are in their mid to upper 20s. And they're like, you need a podcast. And I was like, I don't want to do a podcast. I got stuff to do. And they're like, you need a podcast. I was like, fine, we'll do a podcast. Expedition U is about, there's a famous quote that I really, really love. And it's from Isaac Newton, actually. He says, if I've seen further than those before me, it's because I stand on the shoulders of giants. Most people that do what we do are familiar with that quote, but really they don't necessarily think about what it means is that I'm paying respect to the people that came before me, and I'm building on top of what they provided to me. Yeah. So we have really two things we'd like to talk about. One is what's your genesis story? Where do you come from? Who is the one person in your life where you go, if I remove that person, I'm not here. Right. And you can't say your wife or your mom or your dad or your kids, right? It has to be an outside influence.
Yeah.
And then who are you trying to be that person for? And you can't say your wife or your mom or your dad or your kids, right? Who are you building into? Who built into you? But then the really thing that I really like sharing is, where did you suck? Right? Because everybody on these podcasts, especially, I think even more so in real estate than anything else, oh, I'm killing it, and I did this, and I did that, and we got all this stuff going on. I'm like, cool. That doesn't motivate the guy that's in Sucksville right now, because you're just living this lifestyle so far above anything he can obtain. Share with me your worst deal before you tell me about your best deal. And we want to share that path. Okay, how did you get from not being able to do that to now doing it at an expert level? But make sure you share that you weren't good at it. Yeah. Everybody they sound like, oh, my first deal, I made $1 million. Really?
Did you really? Yeah, no, that's probably the most interesting podcasts are the ones where you hear, because we're all just human beings, right? We're all just regular dudes and women. And we don't really, we all walk into something, like real estate, and you have no idea what it's about. Everything is confusing. The terminology, the buildings, do I need to know how to paint? There's so many things when you look at real estate that you're like, especially if you came from zero real estate experience, there's so many aspects of it, from paperwork to, like I said, terminology, acronyms. What does that even mean? Everyone keeps mentioning this acronym. What does that mean? Right. So, having a podcast where you are explaining kind of like where this guy failed, because that's where you are currently,
sure.
It's definitely super interesting. And it kind of, I don't know, I think it brings in more listeners, because there's more people that don't know how to do something than do.
Well, not only that, but I think that you get better engagement, not only for the podcast, but for the people that are on the podcast, because people, when they see the vulnerability, it allows them to be vulnerable and ask questions.
Yeah.
When you see the guy that never does anything but score touchdowns, you're not going to go throw a ball in front of the dude.
Yeah.
Right. But
yeah, that's a good analogy. I like that. That's a really good analogy.
So, it's just that vulnerability and just that honesty, I think, is something that is so lacking in the keyboard warriors of today. And just, I think that when you see, honesty is always attractive. It just is, people are attracted to that. So, and if you got an honest guy that can also show you how to make a crap ton of money, that's a dude I'm listening to.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I would feel the exact same way on that, man. There's not a lot of, there's more podcasts out there where, I think I guess, especially with the guests on the guest side, they tell you exactly what they've accomplished, right? All these big, huge, amazing things. And I do like that.
Sure.
I enjoy it. It's like inspiring. It fires me up. But previously when I was brand new to everything, right? That wasn't what fired me up, because I was like, wait a minute, he's a billionaire. His dad gave him that money. He went to a great college. And I would turn it off immediately. I mean, I really would. I would turn it off instantly. Now, though, obviously that was when I was new. Had I heard, hey, here's how I struggled. These were the problems I had. These were the issues I faced. I would have been like, boom, let's listen. What do you got? Like, that's exactly me.
A great example is Ryan Reynolds. I mean, the guy is unarguably one of the biggest movie stars in the world. And one of the things he probably talks about more or makes fun of more than anything is Green Lantern, which was considered his worst movie ever. And he pokes fun at himself, but he admits, I did some stuff that was crap before I got here, right? I mean, so I think if we just all do that and revisit, but at the same time, I forget who told me this a long time ago. They said there's a reason that your windshield is the size it is and that your rearview mirror is the size it is, because you need to look behind you, but don't spend too much time doing it.
Wow. You're really good with analogies, man. I like that.
I stole that. I 100% stole that from somebody else, but I loved
it. Well, you're both really good with analogies then, you and whoever that person is that you stole it from. Jason, how can people get hold of you?
Oh, they can reach us at the Franklin Realty Group LLC.com. They can reach me at Jason Franklin on Facebook. They can reach me on Instagram at the Franklin Realty Group, all over the place. We're not hard to find because we yell and scream our names from every rooftop that we're allowed to.
And one more time, the name of the app.
REIFT.com, REIFT. That's a real estate shift.
Okay. Real estate shift, dude. I am excited for that. I'll be one of the first customers if I can get in. If I'm big enough to get in with all these big builders, I'll definitely give it a shot. I'll send you my app. Good deal, Jason. All right, dude. Here's the big question. Are you ready for this? Here's the big question. All right, now, Jason, we are LandLife. Like that. I buy and sell land all over the country, right?
Sure.
If you could buy and sell or buy land, you don't want to sell it. If you could buy land anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Anywhere in the world?
Anywhere in the world.
Because I've got two answers to that. And they're so contrast.
Let's do it.
Montana, deep Montana. I love that. I mean, the land to person ratio is amazing. Yeah. Population, thanks. My big real estate words here. And I love that show, Island Hunters. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't think you could buy an island. Yes. Until that show came out, I was like, oh, holy crap, people buy islands? That's amazing. I want an island.
Yeah.
None of my dreams are small. So, good. Yes, either be an island or Montana. And those are, like I said, incredibly contrast.
Yeah. Why not do both? Get a little jet strip for your jet. Bring one to the next. And
I'm down.
Yeah, that show was so cool. That Island Hunters, is it still even on anymore?
I don't even know if it is or not. But honestly, the first thing I thought when I saw that was, one, I didn't know you could buy an island. Yeah. I mean, which makes sense. But two, I was like, how did that agent get that job? That is amazing.
I did. Oh, same. Exact same. I'm like, what was he doing? Like, what day was he like, you know what? I really like this residential neighborhood, but I'm going to go see if these guys want to buy an island. Let's get on my jet. Let's go, fly across the ocean and look at Fiji.
Yeah, that'd be good. You got a showing appointment, babe. I'll be home in a week.
He's a Canadian guy too. So they have tons of islands in Canada. Maybe that had something to do with it.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah. Jason, dude, I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. A lot of really cool stuff, and hopefully some stuff that, people can use and team up with you and jump on the app. And if you're looking for a house in the Houston area, contact Jason too.
Anywhere in Texas, we got you hooked.
Anywhere in the entire state of Texas. That's a big place too.
It is.
Right on, guys. Thanks again, Jason. And guys, till next time, I'll see you on LandLife.
Have a good one.